We're waiting to find out what the Democrats are actually going to do with their big reconciliation bill. And so you have the Democrats, and they're in charge. White House, we've got the Senate, we've got the House, but unfortunately, there's a parliamentarian. That's basically like the Avengers versus Thanos. It's a coin flip on who's gonna win, because apparently the parliamentarian has decided that the Democrat plan to put a path to citizenship for 8 million undocumented immigrants cannot be a part of the reconciliation bill. The parliamentarian, whose name is Elizabeth MacDonough, something you shouldn't ever need to know. But Democrats called the plan to make an estimated 8 million undocumented immigrants eligible for green cards a quote broad new immigration policy that could not be included, and that's in the reconciliation process, which is a procedure that can be used to pass budget bills with a simple majority of senators. Or in other words, the only way anything can get done, because the Republicans aren't going to support literally anything. And so the Democrats had been saying offering green cards to 8 million undocumented immigrants as part of the bill would effectively have a budgetary impact, because it would allow them to gain permanent residency, which would qualify them for federal benefits, costing an estimated $139.6 billion over 10 years, which is obviously a substantial budgetary impact. But MacDonough wasn't having it. She was saying this goes beyond just budgetary stuff, so you can't have it. So I guess that's it, Nina. Nothing to be done. The parliamentarian, I may not agree with her, but she was elected by a majority of the nothing. So I guess there's nothing we can do.
Well, it's just a suggestion. It's not binding. The Senate does not have to do what the parliamentarian says. We've been down this road, John. I'm old enough to remember that $15 an hour minimum wage increase that this same parliamentarian said, nope, cannot do it. It's just an opinion. It is not binding. She was, as you said, selected by the United States Senate. They don't have to keep her, and they don't have to do what she says. It's not binding.
Now, as you pointed out, we have been through this before, and at that point, people brought up a variety of different things the Democrats could do to either ignore the advice, replace her, whatever. They chose not to do that. Now, I saw Chuck Schumer had announced that they're going to appeal the decision or something. I don't know what that means. I think he literally means appealing it to the same person. So I don't know why she would change her mind. But that seems to me like, oh shucks, we're not actually gonna do anything. Do you expect that there's gonna be any substantial pushback?
No, I think there may be some pushback, but it'll be from the more progressive members of that body. But in terms of having an absolute pushback on the parliamentarian's decision, no, I don't. And you know what, John? I want to be wrong. But yes, we have seen this movie before from beginning to end. And all of this stuff is just a formality. The Senate, listen, gave the Democrats the White House, gave the Democrats the US Senate. They are in control of the Congress. And I swear to you, it seems like it is harder now for them to get anything done than before. And they continue to come up with the same sad excuses. Unacceptable.
Yeah, I'm sure that they're feeling some anxiety, because before they couldn't do anything, and now like it looked like maybe they could. And oh, thank God the parliamentarian said that we didn't have to do it. That really took the load off. I'm sure they appreciated that. But as you pointed out, some of the progressive.
No, John, I'm sorry. Some of them are hiding. They're hiding behind this parliamentarian, and no shade towards her. She's reading it as she sees it. That's fine. But they can overrule her. I just want the people joining us on this journey to understand that her decision, it's advice. It is not binding.
Yeah. And by the way, like we know politicians are supposed to be ambitious, right? They want power. Okay, so in the cases where they could have power if they did X, but they choose not to do X, you really got to ask yourself, what is the greater interest for them that would stop them from doing this? So like when they like laud the filibuster just stops them from doing something. And yet they love it. Why would they love something that stops them from accomplishing their supposed goals? Well, if they didn't actually have those goals, if they kind of liked the fact that they didn't have to do anything, because they already have the power that they need. The power they have is their presence in the government. That gets them what they want, which is financial support from wealthy donors. Accomplishing supposed legislative goals that they campaigned on or whatever, that doesn't get them more donations from those corporations. So why do them? And in fact, it might get them primaried by some other corporatist. If they suddenly start, supporting raising taxes on corporations or the wealthy, it's entirely possible that they could not only stop getting donations from those people, but find themselves facing competition as well. So we're gonna talk in a bit about the filibuster more. But Manchin and Sinema, they're like some of these things. Sinema now is she's coming out against the prescription drug benefit changes. She had previously campaigned just a couple of years ago on we have got to do something, we've got to reform this. And now she's threatening to tank the entire reconciliation bill if they do the thing that in 2018 she was calling to have happen. It's ridiculous.
Well, it is, John. You say one thing and you do another once you actually get the power. And that is what is happening here. And any politician, I mean any Republican or Democrat, but we're focusing in on the Democrats because they control all the levers of power in that Congress, both chambers and also the presidency. Any elected official that will stand in the way of the American people being able to have affordable prescription drugs, something is wrong with them. But you know what? She's answering to her owner donors. And they usually always win with this system, this rigged system. And that is why we really need to get more people who have consciousness and who have intestinal fortitude to stand up against these forces. And we need campaign finance reform, John. Let me just throw that out there too while we're talking about what we need to change.
Yeah, the effective money is so crazy that you can we're still trying to convince people in Arizona that Sinema doesn't have her back. Some people in West Virginia really believe no, Manchin understands working class interests. No, he doesn't care at all about that. And it's because of all the money. I was watching, I don't normally watch CNN or MSNBC or whatever, but I was in Missouri for the week and my friend, while he's drinking his coffee in the morning, he'll put on CNN. And I saw this same ad over and over every break. And it was some older man who needed help with his health. And the end message is Medicare negotiating isn't the answer. I just thought, what the hell are you talking about? I get that they got to try to do this, but the message that your insurance provider effectively should not try to use their influence to make your medication cheaper. That was flooding the airwaves of CNN. Every single break they had ads like that. And that is a lot of money that's going into that because those companies want to save a bunch of money. Anyway, just very, very frustrating to see every step of the way. We're not surprised, but it's frustrating to see the process getting sidelined by people who fundamentally don't care. They don't care about the interests of their constituents. They didn't even care about pursuing the goals that they alleged to support just a couple of years ago.
That's right, and just preserving the status quo. They don't care about preserving the health of the people who need those prescription drugs. And a lot of folks, a lot of people are either underinsured or uninsured. We are the only industrialized nation in the world that does not have some type of universal healthcare. And part of healthcare is being able to get your prescription drugs that enhance your life. John, on the campaign trail, I got a chance to meet a young woman, and she does have health insurance through her job. But she said, Senator Turner, one of the reasons why I'm supporting you is because one day I might not have my health insurance. And if I don't have my health insurance, I have type 1 diabetes. My prescription drug cost would be, without my insurance, $4,000 a month. Even if somebody was in a month. And this is to live. This ain't for, cosmetics. This is to preserve her life. And just think about it. And she communicates on a regular basis with people who don't have health care. She even shares some of her insulin with folks. Nobody should have to live like that. Or on the other side of that, be forced to think about dying like that because we commodify healthcare, and that we will not bring the cost of prescription drugs under control. We can absolutely do that in the United States of America. That's what I want folks to know. We need to be mad as hell and deciding that we're not gonna take it anymore when it comes to the commodification of healthcare and putting people's lives at risk for profit.
You're 100% right. And think about the gap between the instance, the woman you're talking about there, the suffering that she feels, which is, there will be differences from other people, but millions and millions and millions of Americans are experiencing something like that. And then Manchin or Sinema, they're not suffering in any way. They're not even worried about like political consequences in a couple years, like an abstract career thing years in the future. They're not suffering at all. So the status quo looks pretty good if you're doing pretty good under the status quo.
It does, John. And can I just make one other quick point? And they have, drum roll please, taxpayer-sponsored healthcare, those two. We, the taxpayer, pay for the healthcare of the members of Congress. Hello, somebody. So how dare they stand in the way of millions of Americans getting the lower cost prescription drugs and the healthcare that they need?
100%. They're gonna be just fine.
Why don't they give it up, John? Let all the folks that stand in the way of universal health care and driving down the cost of prescription drugs, let them give up their taxpayer-sponsored health care.
Doubt it. Now, really fast, I just want to read a couple of quotes because we focused on Manchin and Sinema because they're part of the problem. But there was a great Onion headline. It was I think it was Joe Manchin getting pushback for taking all the credit when so many other Democrats also won't vote for any of this stuff either. But anyway, Dick Durbin was asked about the possibility of trying to overrule the parliamentarian and said, I don't believe that's realistic. I think the votes needed on the floor are not there. Which, look, I agree, probably the votes aren't there right now, but he didn't really seem that bothered by it. Bob Menendez says, while I understand the passion and I understand the sentiment behind it, I think it's not necessarily constructive at this point. Well, I don't want to be unconstructive. And Manchin says he won't undermine the Byrd rule, which lays out the guidelines for what could be included under reconciliation. Sinema said earlier this year, there was no instance where she would overrule the parliamentarian. Like nothing within the bounds of time or space, because it's a convenient shield. You don't have to do anything if someone can take the blame or whatever. And that is fundamentally the problem. We have all these elected representatives that will make promises, or in the case of someone like Manchin, I don't even think he really promises anything when he's running for office. And if they don't deliver, when they don't deliver, there are no consequences to them. They don't have to deliver anything to keep their job and the big paycheck and all the benefits and eventually getting a lobbying job or a job on a corporate board or something like that. They can just continue. And that's the system that we have. Any final thoughts about this?
The consequence part, John, and it's called elections. And we got to get people galvanized. Conscious-minded people all over this country are going to have to galvanize, come together. As Michael Render, AKA Killer Mike, says, plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize on their own behalf. And put people in office who actually give a damn about what they're going through. This is wrong.
We need a good candidate in 2024.
Yeah, we definitely do. But even there, when we got to deal with 2022 before we get to 2024, this is maddening what the American people are accepting from these people who hold their power. Again, it is your power. It's our power. They are elected to do our bidding, and they're not doing our bidding because they're safe. They're set. A lot of these people are set for life, and their children and their children's children are set for life. So they're showing very clearly what they think about the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class. But it doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to stay this way.
Yeah, I hope so.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.